Greetings, I'm Straz, and welcome to another episode of Amateur Hour. This week we're going to be looking at a cheerlead game on Cursed Hollow. Unlike in many other episodes of Amateur Hour and the Monday Melee, today we're not going to be really looking at a team fight. There's going to be a team fight, a couple of them actually, but that's not going to be the focus of this video. Instead, as you can see as this game has just begun, we're going to focus on the early game and Here's the Storm. As we start things off, you can see that because the blue team has Sylvanas, they're going to try to do some pushing in this top lane. They're going to pick up a tower, and they're going to fall back here. The red team's going to do a pretty good job of repelling them. Yet as they're down a little bit of experience because of that tower, the red team is going to push a little too far to try and get a kill on the blue team, and that's going to end up costing them. They know they're down experience and they're trying to make something happen here by getting a kill. Unfortunately, this is going to let the blue team actually get 2 kills off of them, as you can see both Joanna and Diablo go down. While they almost did pick off that Sylvanas, the bravest Sylvanas in the world I should add, it doesn't really matter as she's going to just be able to slip right away. Now that first engagement's over, I want to kind of just talk about how this game has just played out and what has kind of gone on. In fact, I kind of want to explain this in full detail, so I'm going to pause things right here. Alright, so first off, what just happened in that little opening sequence? Prior to the previous scaling patch, it was really common to see in Team League games and in competitive games for teams to kind of just trade on forts, or towers I should say. They would go up to the wall, start trying to take down a tower as fast as they could, and because structures didn't do a whole lot of damage, 50% less than they do now, they usually were able to pick up at least 1 tower, if not 2, and sometimes a little bit more than that, depending on how greedy they were being. With the changes that they added, making structures do more damage, you can't really do the strategy anymore. But having a Sylvanas in your team gets around that, as she can disable the structures, meaning that you can safely take down the towers. This is exactly what the blue team does, and right out the gate they make a beeline for the top towers. By doing this, they are however sacrificing experience in the middle and bottom lanes. But theoretically, by picking up a tower, it should be able to at least put them even, if not a little ahead. With that said, to truly execute this strategy on a high level, you need to do the mid lane, or you need to take down the tower fast enough where you can rotate people to the other lane so you don't miss losing any experience in the lanes that you're not currently attacking. Now the blue team doesn't do this here, and that should actually mean that the red team shouldn't be that far behind. Unfortunately, when they repel them up top, they don't back off fast enough and they commit to trying to get a kill there. This proves not to be worth it for them, as they actually drop 2 players, which gives the blue team a pretty sizable experience advantage at just level 2. Now, an experience lead at level 2 might not seem like a huge deal, but it actually is, as it means that they're going to be able to pick up their level 4 talents just a tad bit before the red team, which could give them a huge advantage in a tribute fight. From this point on, both teams just need to aggressively soak lanes. They don't really need to push anything, they don't need to be trying to go for ganks, they just need to be making sure that they absolutely are not missing a single experience point in any of these lanes. Making matters harder for the red team, you can see that the blue team is rotating 2 members, Tyrande and Murden, around the map, and they're just grabbing vision, trying to take camps when they can, and just also trying to bully whatever lane seems to be the weakest. You're going to see that payoff for them right here, as they're going to almost kill this Kel'Thas. He's just going to barely escape once again with nothing as far as HP goes. Now while the escape is good, you're going to see a huge mistake made by the Rhaegar and Kel'Thas here. They need to be soaking experience, yet both members are going to leave this middle lane, and you're going to watch as all these minions are going to walk up to these canyons and get killed off, which is a best case scenario for the blue team, as it means that they're not going to get that experience. While Kel'Thas does come back here to get these last 3 minions, he missed the experience for basically in half of a wave, which is a huge deal, especially this early in the game. With that said, the red team does get a break, as the tribute here is going to spawn at the perfect time, allowing them to actually pick up their level 4s before engaging in this fight. Now I actually think Falstad makes an error here. He should have stayed in this bottom lane, soaking experience before coming up to aid his team in this fight. With that said, they're going to have a slight advantage here, the red team, as it is 4 on 5, Sylvanas is a little bit late to this. It doesn't really matter too much, as Diablo is playing a little too aggressive, and you can see his health is going to go down here pretty fast. Now while they do pick up Thrall, you can see that the combined health of the red team is pretty low right now. Murden's the only person that's low on the blue team, and he's the tank, and he's just going to kind of back up and pick up that tribute. The rest of the red team is going to kind of get picked off here one by one, as their health pools just aren't enough. Even though they have the tankier roster here, it just isn't going to help them do anything, especially this early in the game. Now I actually want to talk about that Falstad play a little bit. A lot of people are probably screaming at the monitor saying, well, you're saying Falstad shouldn't have gone there, but if he hadn't gone there, you would have yelled at him for not being in the team fight. But that's not true, because I don't think that the red team should have actually gone for that tribute. If you're down a level this early in the game, and you know that the other team is going to make a big push for that tribute, maybe poke it, try and delay a little bit, but honestly you should stay in lane and try and get caught up experience-wise. If you can manage to do that, then the later tributes when you get closer to level 10 will be much easier for it to contest. The thing that you don't want to do is lose a tribute fight because you're down a level now, and then later on when it's a 2-3 tribute and they're about to take the other one and they have ults and you do not. That's not a situation that you want to be in. That's basically an instant loss, at least for that curse. Now you can see both teams are kind of just sparring back and forth, picking up experience where they can. Currently the bottom lane is being held by Falstad and the blue team is not doing anything with it, but you can see that's because they have a coordinated party taking these giants here, which is really brave and I would say really silly, though they did have vision on every member of the red team, so it wasn't as risky as it looked. As the next tribute spawns, you can see that Jaina's going to be a little bit out of a position here, but she is going to be able to fall back before she takes too much damage. Unfortunately for the red team, they overextended a little bit trying to kill her, and that means that Joanna's health is really low, which is going to allow her to get picked off right there. Now it's also worth mentioning here that the red team just now picked up their level 7 talents. The blue team has held on to them for a lot longer, and this means that they actually had a pretty big advantage going into that team fight. While many people don't consider the level 7 tier to be like a big power spike, every single talent tier is huge in Heroes of the Storm, and not having that might have cost them that team fight before it even began. Now you're going to see this blue team taking the red team's boss here. This is an incredibly aggressive play. Yet at the same time it's safe, as once again you can see on the mini-map they have vision of most members of the blue team, and even just having vision on 1 or 2 of them is enough to know that there's no way they're going to be able to defend that boss in time. Now this is when the game becomes about rotations. The red team needs to rotate to take down this boss. They have this mid lane pushing, they don't really need Rhaegar to be with it. What they need is everyone to come up here to defend this boss, because right now it's not even 6 minutes into this game and there's a keep that's about to be pushed. Yet for whatever reason the red team doesn't really have faith that they're going to actually be able to push this keep with this boss, and I really can't blame them, because when do you ever see a boss this early in the game? Nevertheless, it is pushing, and the red team is taking a ton of damage as Diablo goes down. While I agree with Falstad picking up the tribute here, I do think that everyone needed to be back and defending this a lot earlier. The blue team actually is going to continue to push here, and they're going to take a keep 6 minutes and 11 seconds into this game, which is absolutely incredible. At the same time, the experience of this push has allowed them to get level 10, which is going to make them easily be able to clean up Kael'thas as well as Joanna here. They're just going to continually just mow through the red team. With all that said, while this is a fantastic effort, they should be backing out here, as there's no way that they're going to be able to take a core this early in the game. Just not going to happen. They needed to back off. They get a little cocky here, which is understandable, considering how they've been just slapping the red team around so far, but really they needed to back off a little bit sooner. Now this game, I can say, does actually go on for a lot longer. Despite this push in the beginning, the blue team doesn't manage to win this game for a while, but they do win it, and I believe a lot of it is because of this early gameplay. Now in Heroes of the Storm, one of the things that I feel like constantly gets emphasized is team fights, specifically late game, big, explosive team fights, and honestly just basically everything after level 10. In Heroes of the Storm, we don't spend a lot of time as casters, commentators, players, whatever, really paying attention to the early game. If you look at all the Monday melees and amateur hours that we've done so far, I think we've only done 1 or 2 that have taken place before level 10. Now there's a reason for that, and it's not just strategy. Those after 10 team fights tend to be flashier and just better, more interesting, have bigger consequences, or more immediate consequences I should say. But that doesn't mean that the early game isn't important. Quite to the contrary, the early game in Heroes of the Storm kinda tells you how the rest of the game is going to go. While certainly comeback mechanics exist, regardless of what anyone says, Heroes of the Storm is a game that, like every other MOBA, is often built on the foundations of what happens in the early game. Casting with Josheb, especially in Chair League, I think they both have an innate kind of just feeling for who's gonna win after watching the first 10 levels. What you learn to pick up on is the fundamentals and seeing who's doing them better. This honestly just isn't even a cheer league thing. You can see this in pro games, that some of the top teams playing against each other. You'll see them and you can kind of judge if someone's feeling it or if they're not feeling it, or if they're playing very cohesive or not. The best way to see this is how they're taking care of experience and mercenaries in the early game. In Heroes of the Storm, it's unacceptable to lose any experience from mercenaries. Unless you're getting an equal number of experience or equal amount of experience somewhere else, and you're guaranteed that experience, you're probably better off just soaking. This is something that a lot of players in Heroes of the Storm just take for granted, or they just don't realize the importance of it. While laning in Heroes of the Storm and jungling in Heroes of the Storm is downplayed a little bit, or I should honestly say a lot compared to say Dota or League of Legends, it actually still is really important, especially in the early game. Learning how to manage going for objectives while at the same time clearing every single wave of experience that you possibly can is key to victory in Heroes of the Storm on every single map. It might not be romantic, it might not be flashy, it might not win you any awards, but just by soaking experience, you can guarantee your team the victory. In fact, one of the best tips that I ever heard in Heroes of the Storm comes from Dreadnought. If you're passing a wave of minions and you can kill them quickly without losing something else, without sacrificing a team fight or something big, you need to clear those minions. You should never walk by minions and not clear them unless there is a burning reason for you to be somewhere at that present moment. Really, while a lot of people, when I was looking at the stream of this game and playing it back and kind of just rewatching this, a lot of people were talking about how the blue team was just completely schooling the red team as far as team fights went. But really, while they get some nice shots like that Ice Lance from that Jaina there, that isn't necessarily the reason why they actually win this game. They win this game because their fundamentals are better. They miss less waves of experience, they're better about soaking them, they're better about getting to them when they need to, and they're better about learning that, hey, once you pick up that wave of experience, you don't have to sit idly in the lane. You can go and help someone else with their lane, or you can go and try and get a gank or do something. Because of their superior control of the fundamentals, even though arguably their team fights are not really that much better than the red team, they're able to just instantly jump to a huge lead here and even push core just 6 minutes into this game. There's no real huge tactical takeaway from this video except for this. Minion waves are important, experience is important, and you should never undervalue that in Heroes of the Storm. Objectives and team fights and getting everything else on the map, that's really important. It's part of the game, it helps you win the game. You're not going to win without those things, but if you can't effectively get experience and you don't know when you should be getting experience or you should be doing something else, or when you should be waiting in lane for an experience wave to come or when not to, then you will not win your games most of the time. As a final tip here, pay attention to that mini-map. It's not just for players. The minion waves mirror each other on the minion map, so as soon as one spawns on your side, one's going to spawn on the other side. And this means you can kind of time where the minion wave is, so you know that you're never going to miss a wave if you carefully plan your route around the map. That's it for this week's Amateur Hour. As a note, the response last week was super positive to me asking if anyone would watch an actual Amateur Hour on Twitch. Seemed like a lot of people want that, and so I'm going to do it. I could probably make it a weekly thing. If you want to know when that's going to be, follow me on Twitter. You can find that info in the comments, or just keep an eye out on this channel and Reddit. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have a game to submit, feel free to do so. That info is also in the comments. And I'll see you next week.